Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare.
Jai Shri Krishna Radha Shiv Sari Gaur Bhakta Vrinda. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda, Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shiv Sari Gaur Bhakta Vrinda. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda, Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shiv Sari Gaur Bhakta Vrinda. तो श्री राधे गोलोकानंद भगवान की
जय।
हरे कृष्णा।
हरे कृष्णा प्रभु जी।
You are on mute, Dushtabu. We are not able to hear you, Prabhuji.
I didn't unmute. Hare Bo Shivaji.
Hare Krishna.
We have a lot of verses here, but these verses will take us a couple of weeks to go through all the purport, but they're very important points being made. We can start anytime you like, Prabhuji.
Okay, let's start.
Amanitvamadambhitvam ahimsa kshantirajvam acharyopasanam shaucham स्थैर्यमात्मविनिग्रहः इन्द्रियार्थेषु वैराग्यम् अनहङ्कार एव च जन्म मृत्युजरा व्याधि दुःखदोषानुदर्शनम् असक्तिर्न भीष्मङ्गः पुत्रदारगृहादिषु नित्यै च समचित्तत्वम् इष्टानिष्टोपपत्तिषु मयि चानन्ययोगेन भक्तिर्व्यभिचारिणी विविक्तदेशसेवित्तम् अरतिर्जनसंसदि अध्यात्मज्ञाननित्यत्वं तत्त्वज्ञानार्थदर्शनम् एतज्ज्ञानमिति प्रोक्तम् अज्ञानं यततोऽन्यथा. Beautiful. Humility, pridelessness, non-violence, tolerance, simplicity, approaching a bona fide spiritual master, cleanliness, steadiness, self-control, renunciation of the objects of sense gratification, absence of false ego, the perception of the evil of birth, death, old age and disease, detachment, freedom from entanglement with children, wife, home, and the rest, even-mindedness, and amid pleasant and unpleasant events, constant and unalloyed devotion to me, aspiring to live in a solitary place, detachment from the general mass of people, accepting the importance of self-realization and philosophical search for the absolute truth. All these I declare to be knowledge, and besides this, whatever there may be is ignorance.
Okay. This process of knowledge is sometimes misunderstood by less intelligent men as being the interaction of the field of activity. But actually, this is the real process of knowledge. If one accepts this process, then the possibility of approaching the absolute truth exists. This is not the interaction of the 24 elements as described before. That was in the previous two verses, 6 and 7. This is actually the means to get out of the entanglement of those elements. The embodied soul is entrapped by the body, which is a casing made of the 24 elements, and the process of knowledge as described here is the process to is the means to get out of it. All of the descriptions, of all the descriptions of the process of knowledge, the most important point is described in the first line of the 11th verse. Okay, we're going on. Maya Chananya Yogena Bhaktir Abhyavicharani. The process of knowledge terminates in unalloyed devotional service to the Lord.
So if one does not approach or is not able to approach the transcendental service of the Lord, then the other 19 items are of no particular value. But if one takes to devotional service in full Krishna consciousness, the other 19 items automatically develop within him. As stated in Srimad Bhagavatam 5:18-12, Yasyasti Bhaktir Bhagavatya Kinchana Sarvar Gunastatra Samasate Suraha. All the good qualities of knowledge develop in one who has attained the stage of devotional service. The principle of accepting a spiritual master, as mentioned in the 8th verse, is essential. Even for one who is to the devotional service, is most important. Transcendental life begins when one accepts a bona fide spiritual master. The Supreme Personality of Godhead, Sri Krishna, clearly states here that this process of knowledge is the actual path. Anything speculated beyond this is nonsense.
Let's do one more paragraph, then we'll stop and discuss.
Okay, sure.
As for the knowledge outlined here, the items may be analyzed as follows. Humility means that one should not be anxious to have the satisfaction of being honored by others. The material conception of life makes us very eager to receive honor from others. But from the point of view of a man in perfect knowledge who knows that he is not this body, anything, honor or dishonor pertaining to this body is useless.
Bill?
Bill?
Yes, one should not be hankering after this material deception. People are very anxious to be famous for their religion, and consequently, sometimes it is found that without understanding the principles of religion, one enters into some group which is not actually following religious principles, and then wants to advertise himself as a religious mentor. As for actual advancement in spiritual science, one should have a test to see how far he is progressing. He can judge by these items.
Any thoughts about what we've read here?
But I would like to say something about the verse itself. It's very important just to realize that the items of knowledge are beginning with humility and pridelessness. These two are essential for us to make advancement in spiritual life. And of course, approaching the spiritual master is also essential. Says the path to transcendence is attained or achieved when one takes shelter of a self-realized transcendental personality. But humility and pridelessness are very, very important.
Yeah, and I think it's also important that it says, so if one does not approach the transcendental service of the Lord, then the other 19 items are of no particular value. That's leading to the end, is that all this is in the service of the philosophical search for the absolute truth. If you develop all these good qualities outside of that it's not bad to have these qualities, but it's not serving the purpose of human life, which is to solve the conundrum of why we're here and why we really can't be happy, why there's death, why do we feel that we shouldn't die because we're actually eternal, and all these bewildering things that happen to us in this world. So that's really the purpose of all this, is to develop this, to become successful in our philosophical search for the absolute truth, which culminates in devotional service to Krishna.
Yeah, I think that's a very important point, Prabhuji. Like, I mean, a lot of people, right? They would try to do good things, do a lot of good charity, try to be simple, try to be humble.
Mhm.
They will read a lot, try to be knowledgeable. They will help out a lot to everybody else, which is all great. But I think the point here mentioned is like if that all that doesn't terminate in devotional service,
Right.
then all these things have no particular value.
Right. And
Except maybe,
yeah, go on.
yeah, no, sorry. So except maybe good karma will probably get them a better birth next time, but that's about it. They are still in the same cycle of
Yeah.
materialistic world.
You know-
That is why reading this book, especially the Bhagavad Gita, is so important, because
Yeah.
then one gains the right perspective, the right understanding, and can discriminate. Am I doing this because it's a nice, good thing to do that is going to keep me bound to the world of matter in a very good position, very comfortable position, but still bound in the prison house.
First class prisoner.
First class prisoner, right?
I think the other important part, which is right the next line, is that if one takes to devotional service, so he may not have any of those qualities
Yeah.
to start with.
Well,
But
they're
if
all
you-
material, unless one takes to the devotional service of the Lord, all of these good things are material endeavors.
Yeah.
And
Yeah, but what it is saying,
material
even if you don't have any of these qualities, but if you take to devotional service,
The other ones will come.
the other ones will come automatically. Maybe it will take time,
Yes,
but
yes,
it will all come.
Yeah.
that's right.
Well, the Christians say, seek ye, or Christ said, seek ye first the kingdom of God and everything else will be added.
Right.
And then also the understanding is that we see that one can be in the mode of goodness, but that's still material. It's still binding us. You can do all sorts of nice works in goodness, and they're not going to hurt people. I mean, materially speaking, they're positive and they're nurturing to some degree, but they don't teach people what the real problem is and how to get out.
However, an important point is that of the three modes of material nature,
Goodness.
goodness, passion, and ignorance, when a person is situated in goodness, mostly in goodness, it's a closer step forward toward the process of devotion. In other words, that person is already kind of becoming a little bit purified to where accessing the process of devotion becomes easier than for the other two groups. Those who are in passion and those definitely who are in ignorance are not going to be approaching the path of devotion. The ones in ignorance, impossible.
Mode of goodness is like a launching pad.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Um,
that's it.
And we look at the verse number 15, 18, number 5, 18, 12, which is Yas Yasti Bhaktir Bhagavat Yakinchana Sarver Gunas Tatra Samasate Sura Hara Bhaktasya Kuto Mahad Guna Mano Ratana Nena Sati Davato Bahi. And that says, and this is a strong statement, all the demigods and their exalted qualities, such as religion, knowledge, and renunciation, become manifest in the body of one who has developed unalloyed devotion for the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Vasudeva. And this is the point that you just made, Gajendraji. On the other hand, a person devoid of devotional service and engaged in material activities has no good qualities. So good qualities here are described as spiritual qualities. And if you don't have spiritual qualities, you don't have good qualities by this definition. Even if he is adept in the practice of mystic yoga or the honest endeavor of maintaining his family and relatives, he must be driven by his own mental speculation. That's the word mano ratena, mental speculation. It's a chariot of the mind. He must be driven by his own mental speculations and must engage in the service of the Lord's external energy. In other words, if you can't serve Krishna, you're going to have to serve Krishna's material energy. You got to serve someone, but not necessarily Krishna. How can there be any good qualities in such a man? It's a strong statement, but it's from the spiritual point. What we're saying is that only the good qualities are spiritual qualities. All the other qualities, they fall short because they don't allow us. They don't allow us to realize our full potential.
Of course, when we talk to people, we cannot say that this is useless, in the sense that it is always good to inspire people to act properly, to be dharmic, to be aware and compassionate. All of those things are very good. Now, if they are connected with the Supreme Lord, they become transcendental. That's the difference.
You know, the point being is that this is lessons for people who've passed the brink of introduction.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, the thing is that most of us are not in full Krishna consciousness. And we're trying to get there in order, but it's like not always clear how, because we're not there. And so we try and do, you know, like universal in all these religions, and do God's will. Well, how do you know what it is? Well, if you ask somebody, they're going to tell you what they think it is. But, you know, there's going to be different stories. And it's pretty hard to weed them out if you're not already a realized being. It's what we're all stuck in. It's this conundrum.
Yes.
And we tend to get stuck in situations. The universe conspires to put us in situations where we don't see what to do. We don't know what the guidance is.
This was Arjuna's problem in the beginning of Bhagavad Gita, when in the first chapter, he was just giving all sorts of reasons why he shouldn't fight the battle, and they were good material reasons. But in the beginning of the second chapter, he finally throws down his weapons and says, Sisyasteham sadimam, I'm your shishya, I'm your disciple, just give me instructions. So Krishna, he's the absolute, so he can give absolute instructions. So what we
I wouldn't mind having Krishna as my chauffeur. That would be pretty nice.
Well,
That'd
that's
be very handy.
Krishna loved Arjuna a lot. But the point being is that Krishna, in the end, the chauffeur was doing more than driving the chariot. So the point being, though, is that we have to find someone we can trust, can transmit the proper the knowledge to us, and that's the bona fide guru. And there is a process given by Lord Chaitanya, which is very simple, that we take up the chanting of the holy name. And by taking up that chanting, we purify our consciousness. And then many of these things become self-evident as we purify ourselves. But your point's right. I mean, you know, who do you go to? You have to find someone you can trust.
And Prabhuji, like I found the other paragraph, the second paragraph, very interesting, because I see a lot of people in kind of, you know, I consider it as a disease where, like, you know, people are hankering for others' approval and praise from others, saying that, wow, what a great person you are, what a good deed you have done, you know. So that kind of, you know, desire, and people want to do very good in, like, you know, they want to slog hard in their workplace just to get praise from somebody, from their manager and things like that. So much attached to that appreciation, praise, you know, but just like, you know, in paragraph it says, like, you know, those praises are for this body, not for the soul. So
right.
Yeah, so it is so.
You won't be an accountant in Vrindavan.
Exactly. So I mean, I must say that I have been trying to keep myself out of this mindset, and this is a great affirmation which I'm hearing and reading right now. It is so much relaxing, you know, to be out of this mindset where you are constantly working to please somebody. If I have to please somebody, get some appreciation, I rather do for Krishna.
Absolutely.
That's the idea of Krishna consciousness.
Yes.
One should not be hankering after this material deception. And, you know, it's been said that people spend half their time hankering for approval and half their time fearing of disapproval. So that leaves very little time for anything else.
Absolutely. I'm telling you, like, you know, I'm still trying to pull myself out of this mindset. Like, you know, you do things which pleases your heart, which appeals to your conscience, you know, not for somebody to get praise from somebody, it should be really like, for your soul, it should mean something to you only. And at that point of time, like, whether people appreciate or not appreciate, whether it is tough time or bad time, it doesn't matter, you keep on moving on because it is coming from inside, so I'm so happy to read these verses.
The point is that if we do everything the best way we can for the satisfaction of the Supreme Lord, then we're doing the right thing. And whether
Absolutely.
we appreciate it or not appreciate it, that's secondary.
Absolutely.
But we have to perform whatever we do, as a father, as a businessman, etc., the best we can within the material context, but with the idea that this is an offering of our energy to the Supreme Lord.
Absolutely, Mataji. Absolutely.
Yeah.
And don't worry so much about pulling yourself out. We become attached to Krishna and to his service, then Krishna, he's like that giant, he's like the giant machine that will pull us right out.
Yeah.
Exactly.
You
So
can't
happy to hear that.
You can't climb out of the well yourself. You have to be pulled by that superior.
Yeah, I think the most important is to focus on devotional service.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I think if you just continue to do that, everything else will take care of itself.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Such an optimism. Yeah, I love this.
So let's continue with more paragraphs. Non-violence.
Non-violence is generally taken to mean not killing or destroying the body. But actually, non-violence means not to put others into distress. People in general are trapped by ignorance in the material concept of life, and they perpetually suffer material pains. So unless one elevates people to spiritual knowledge, one is practicing violence. One should try this best to distribute real knowledge to the people so that they may become enlightened and leave this material entanglement. That is non-violence.
I would like to say.
Oh, Rajani wants to say something here.
This thing about that violence and non-violence reminds me of somebody who has the prescription, the formula for eradicating cancer, but never shares it with anybody. That person is committing violence. So we're talking about the cancer of understanding or thinking that we're the material body. So we have some understanding. We need to share our understanding that we're pure spirit souls, and that is an act of compassion. But if we allow others to continue their path toward the cliff, so to speak, when we can help prevent it, that would be violence, as described here by Prabhupada.
If someone's almost ready to step off the top of a roof and you don't stop them, then you did participate in their demise. So let's continue the next paragraph.
Shiva?
Tolerance means that one should be practiced to bear insult and dishonor from others. I love this. Tolerance means that one should be practiced to bear insult and dishonor from others. If one is engaged in the advancement of spiritual knowledge, there will be so many insults and much dishonor from others. This is expected because material nature is so constituted. Even a boy like Prahlad, who only 5 years old was engaged in the cultivation of a spiritual knowledge, was endangered when his father became antagonistic to his devotion. The father tried to kill him in so many ways, but Prahlad tolerated him. So there may be many impediments to making advancement in spiritual knowledge, but we should be tolerant and continue our progress with determination. All my doubts are getting reflected and expressed today.
Yeah. Lord Chaitanya says, Trinadapi, Sunichina, Tororapi, Sahishtina, Amanina, Manadena, Kirtaniya Saha, Sadahari. He says that in order to chant continuously, one has to be more humble in the grass, more tolerant in a tree, and not to expect honor from anyone, but ready to give everyone honor. So this is very important because by being humble and by being tolerant, then we can actually make advancement because we don't put these egoistic, self-centered notions in front of ourselves. I am this, I am that, I'm important, how dare you do this to me? But rather we see ourselves simply as a humble servant of Krishna. And I think Bill was going to say something.
The translation of Kshatriya, and also Prabhupada's take on what tolerance means. It may be a sort of a linguistic mismatch or something, but I'm not. It's not clear to me that usually Kshatriya is can be translated as tolerance or forgiveness, but that doesn't really match with this commentary. I'm not really sure where he's coming from, because neither tolerance nor forgiveness really means, martyrdom for your faith. I mean, I just don't quite get it. It's
the idea here is that the devotee knows that there's no necessarily any respect from persons in the material world. And even Jesus Christ said, someone slaps you on one cheek, turn the other cheek. And that's because we should not buy into their materialistic consciousness. And Buddha talked about all suffering comes from attachment. So when we have an attachment for some particular notion of who we are, then we become intolerant because someone's challenging me, I'm not smart, or someone's challenging me, I'm not rich, or someone's challenging me that I'm ugly, or someone's so many ways, or someone's saying, if you believe in God, I don't want to have anything to do with you. So I think when we see it like presented like this tolerance is forgiveness, and this tolerance is not necessarily saying we should become martyrs, but we should understand that persons became martyrs, or of course, Prahlad wasn't a martyr because Nrsimhadev protected him, but people became martyrs or gave everything for the faith because they didn't care about the material concept of life.
Well, it's just that I was expecting a commentary like this to say tolerance means that one should not insult and dishonor others. And instead, this is turning it around, and it's changing the perspective. I mean, it seems to me that this text is talking about what the devotee should be doing, not necessarily that the tolerance is an external thing that's coming at them. This shouldn't. I mean, you see what I mean? That this is the instructions for
you're talking about how we should be tolerant.
We should be tolerant of others, and there's a whole lot in religious traditions of all kinds that are plenty intolerant.
Well, the devotee is ultimately totally tolerant because the devotee knows that anybody who acts it's actually said that a pure devotee has no enemy. Now, people may be an enemy of a devotee, but the devotee has no enmity towards anyone.
Yes, that would be.
That's the idea. Devotee has no enmity, and Prabhupada says
the same thing. Yeah, I think it's the same thing. Like, so tolerance means that should be practiced to bear insult and dishonor from others, but that also means the same thing, right? Like, you're tolerant. Like, what are you going to be tolerant about for others, right? So the only time you get tolerant is when you are getting frustrated by somebody, or irritated by someone, or insulted by someone, right? So I think it's pretty much the similar concept. That's what I think.
So, but if we are soul, then there is no question of being insulted by anybody, right? If we are soul.
If you're realizing that and you have come to that platform, certainly.
Yeah,
Yeah.
actually, tolerating means to be able to control one's impulses. Because it's very easy that if somebody's insulting us, that we want to reciprocate, we want to attack back. But we know that the process of yoga, as explained here in the Bhagavad Gita, throughout the whole Bhagavad Gita, is self-control. Now, we have to be also intelligent in the sense that we may not be at a certain point, so we have to be careful that we don't lose it. So we may avoid certain kind of situations where it would be impossible for us to act properly. Now, these qualities are expressed here, are items of knowledge. The person who is fully realized and fully devoted to the Supreme Lord manifests these qualities. That doesn't mean that we are at that level. That means that that is what eventually we may aspire to achieve. But we don't do it by action. We do it by concentrating on the prayer, on the worship of the Supreme. In other words, by hearing, chanting, doing the Harinam, discussing the text with others, that is the powerful process of purification. It's not that we have to fight. We have to become purified. That's what we need to aim at. And that's where we should put our energy on, to become purified. And by, in the course of time, as we make progress, these things will start to sprout. They're seeds that will start to sprout. I hope I'm making sense.
And it's also important to understand this is not binary. It's not like a light switch. It's like like lights that have a dimmer, on them. It get gradually brighter and brighter and brighter. Someone may be 80% that way or 50% that way. It's not like it's either 0 or 100%.
Yeah. So I'm getting reminded of incident recently in Bangladesh, right, where ISKCON devotees were attacked.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So I totally get that, right? And as a devotee, I'm not attached to, I'm tolerant, right? Or like, it doesn't bother me whether somebody kind of, attacks me, or, I mean, I want to be in that phase. But as Mataji was saying, that it is very natural that if somebody is trying to do something bad to me, I want to, and that's how we all have, I mean, personally, I have grown. Like if somebody does bad to me, I want to retort. But then I realized that, I don't want to fight little wars, I don't want to get myself caught in small things. That's the reason I don't want to react. But if somebody is hurting me, if somebody is hurting devotees, then we have to take a stand, even though deep down it doesn't mean anything to us. But we have to send a message to all the people who are still evolving, right? That we have to stand up.
It's very important to protect, but it's also very important not to fall down to their level of material contamination. There was a story that comes from Japan, and it's about one of these samurai warriors who was insulted by another warrior who spit in his face, and he just walked away. And then the next week he came back and he challenged him, and in the challenge he killed him. And the person asked, well, why didn't you just do that last week? He said, well, last week I was angry, and this week I'm not angry. I can't get on his level when I do these things. I have to do these things with the proper consciousness. So we have to have the proper consciousness.
Very bold. Yep.
We have to be pragmatic and realistic, understanding where we're at least have a general idea where we're at, so that we can proceed in a way that is only natural for us. If we need to protect ourselves, we protect ourselves. Of course, we're not going to be out to attack, but we have a responsibility to protect our bodies, because the bodies are the instruments for us to become self-realized, and then God realized, and then devotees. So it's only natural that we want to protect our bodies.
And we need to protect the temples and deities and like that too.
And the other devotees.
Well, I think it's an interesting exercise to take a look and find out where the limits of tolerance are. Because I mean, when I read in Back to Godhead or whatever, and I read about these rascal scientists and the attitude toward atheists, this sounds pretty intolerant, you know. And it's I mean it's understandable.
There's there's rhetorical intolerance, and then there's actual physical harmful intolerance. And sometimes when Prabhupada would speak, he wanted to make sure that we understood clearly what the danger is if we don't put God in the center. Big scientist, he wants to put something else besides God in the center. So Prabhupada's going to say this is rascaldom. And of course, in India, you call somebody a rascal, it's not a very good thing. In America, rascal kind of, you kind of think of a little kid. But
I do know rascal scientists. Don't get me wrong.
Those are your words. That's true. Maybe we can do one more paragraph before we end. Yeah, the simplicity paragraph.
Bill, would you read, please? Bill?
Oh, yes, sure. Simplicity means that without diplomacy, one should be so straightforward that he can disclose the real truth even to an enemy. As for acceptance of the spiritual master, that is essential because without the instruction of a bona fide spiritual master, one cannot progress in the spiritual science. One should approach the spiritual master with all humility and offer him all services so that he will be pleased to bestow his blessings upon the disciple. Because a bona fide spiritual master is a representative of Krishna. If he bestows any blessings upon his disciple, that will make the disciple immediately advanced without the disciples following the regulative principles. Or the regulative principles will be easier for one who has served the spiritual master without reservation.
This is an important point being made here about one should approach the spiritual master with all humility and offer him services. There's a verse, Tad vidi pranitapatena pariprashnena sevaya patanchani te gyanam gyaninas tat pradarshanam. This is 434 it's Krishna speaking in the 4th chapter of Bhagavad Gita, saying that one should approach a bona fide spiritual master and serve him and humbly inquire from him, and that the spiritual master can provide truth because he knows the truth. He's seen it. So this is an important point, because otherwise we can't know it. It's like if you're trying to study physics, advanced physics, and you're doing it, from a book on your own. It's a good chance you're not going to understand a whole lot. You have to have a professor who can really explain it to you.
Just ask Dr. Bill.
Yeah, you were the guru of the physics. So, any other questions or comments, thoughts on this? We have a lot more qualities to go, and hopefully next week we'll have more devotees listening to the qualities, but it was a nice discussion.
It is very nice to read about these items of knowledge, these qualities, but these qualities are manifested when the person is in full knowledge. And we're talking about transcendental knowledge. Automatically, these qualities will be manifested. In the meantime, well, we have to be practical and emphasize what we can do, which is reading the Bhagavatam, reading the Bhagavad Gita, associating with the devotees, chanting the holy name, and following all these practices that are so cleansing, so purifying. That's what we do in the meantime.
Thank you, Mataji. That's very nice instruction.
Thank you, Prabhu.
So, Prabhuji, we have Tulsi Vivaha on Sunday, right?
Yes. But not this Sunday, the next Sunday, I think.
Is it this Sunday or next Sunday?
I think it must be. I know this Sunday we're celebrating Gorkashore Das Babaji's. Let me check the calendar.
It's not this.
I'm looking here.
Gajendra Prabhu, I don't know which part of India you belong. Is it which? May I know?
Sure, sure. Yeah. We are from Jaipur originally.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, but did my education in Bombay. Were you in the temple before a couple of weeks?
Oh, yeah, I was.
Oh, you are the one taking the diksha, is it?
No.
No. It was not me.
Okay. Because there was a Shiva doing that. I was wondering.
He was at the temple, but I don't think he took Diksha yet.
Oh, but
Yes.
were you at the temple that day when everyone was taking diksha?
No, I was with Prabhuji.
Yeah, he came and we went on Harinam one Sunday with us.
Oh, okay. Yeah, no, I was just wondering. Yeah. Sorry, you were asking anything else?
Oh, no. I mean, I was just mentioning that, I originally hail from North India, right? From Bihar,
Okay.
Patna, land of Buddha, if you will.
Land of
So,
Buddha.
yeah, Bodh Gaya is there. Ashoka, yeah, everyone. Karna, Oh, yeah. So from Karna, I remember Karna used to do Abhisheka of Surya, Surya. So because of him, we there is a ritual called Chhat Puja, where, so I just we just concluded Chhat Puja this week, So I was just
Nice.
Origins from Mahabharata.
Right. So nice. Cool. I think we'll start the Tulsi Aarti.
That's nice. Let's do
Yeah.
it.
So it is not this Sunday, Prabhuji?
It's definitely not here on this
No,
Sunday.
we don't think so.
I looked at our calendar, it wasn't marked, but
Okay, maybe I have wrong information.
Yes.
Any case, we'll do the Tulsi Aarti.
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah.
Tulasi Krishna Priyasi Namo Namah 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 Radha Krishna Seva Pao He Abhilashi 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 Namo Namah Tulasi Krishna Priyasi Namo Namah Tulasi Krishna Priyasi
Tulasi Krishna Prayasi Namo Tulasi Krishna Prayasi Tulasi Krishna Prayasi Tulasi Krishna Prayasi
Anitani Pranashanti Pare
Krishna Hare
Hare
Krishna
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 Hare
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 Hare Rama
Rama
Hare
Hare
Rama
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 Hare
Hare
Hare Hare
Hare
Krishna Hare
Hare
Krishna
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 Hare Krishna
Hare
Hare Hare
Hare Rama Hare
Hare
Rama
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 Rama Rama Hare Hare
Hare Krishna Hare
Krishna
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 Krishna Krishna
Krishna
Hare Hare
Hare
Hare
Hare
Rama Hare
Hare
Rama
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 Hare Hare
Hare Hare
Hare Krishna
Krishna
Hare
Krishna Hare
Krishna
Krishna
Krishna Krishna Hare
Krishna
Hare
Hare
Hare Rama Hare Rama Rama Rama
Hare Hare
Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna
Krishna Hare Krishna
Krishna
Krishna Krishna
Hare 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 Rama Hare
Hare Rama
Rama Rama
Rama
Hare Hare
Hare
Jaya Tulsi Maharani Jaya
Rani Jaya Tulsi
Maharani
Maharani Jaya Tulsi
Maharani
Maharani Jaya Tulsi Maharani
Jaya Tulsi
Tulsi
Maharani
Maharani Jaya Tulsi
Jaya
Maharani
Tulsi
Tulsi
Maharani
Maharani Jaya Tulsi
Jaya
Maharani
Vrinde Devi Jaya
Jaya Vrinde Devi
Jaya
Jaya Vrinde
Jaya
Jaya Vrinde Devi
Devi Jaya
Jaya Vrinde Devi Jaya Vrinde Devi
Jaya
Jaya Vrinde Devi.
Thank you, Gajendra Prabhu. That
Hare
was nice.
Krishna. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Prabhuji.
Yeah. Next time I also put the lyrics in English, so everyone can
The lyrics were, oh yeah, well,
the lyrics.
the translate, are you talking about the transliterate, yeah, the Roman transliteration, but the English, there was English there for the,
For the for the translation, but
Yeah.
for the reading the
yeah.
I'll
That's
put
good
that
for me
next
to
time.
look at the Devanagari, and then I could see what they actually look like.
Right. Yes. So
Okay,
nice.
so we'll see everybody soon.
Yeah. See you next Friday. Hare Krishna.
Hare
Hare
Krishna.
Krishna. Thanks for everyone
Thank you so
joining.
much.
Thank you, Prabhuji. Thank you,
Hare
Mataji.
Krishna.
Hare Krishna.